Should you pay off debt before you retire? In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 bad things about retiring with debt in place. Now, I'm going to start with the disclosure, and if you have viewed my other videos or read information that I've written on my website at retirecertain.com, you probably already know that what you hear here is different. I'm not an anti-debt person. I don't think all debt is evil, especially when interest rates are super low. So one of the reasons is because I think that you can use debt constructively to build wealth and or generate income. And I think that that couldn't otherwise be done without incurring some type of debt. And there are some times when debt is more favorable, like when interest rates are low, and debt is less favorable, like when interest rates are high. So I don't believe that the same rules apply, certainly not for everyone, and certainly not for all economic times, economic environments, and years. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and dig into these 5 really bad things about retiring with debt. Okay, so the first thing is that debt on depreciating assets is bad for your overall financial well-being, period. It just is. Examples of depreciating assets are certainly, clothes and things like that, but also cars, boats, and other toys. I say that unless you're a really sharp flipper, like I've known a couple of people that have done well flipping cars, buying cars and having them for a year or two. Of course, you've got to be careful with taxes, but for example, I bought a Peugeot at less than market value back when you could buy things out of the newspaper. I drove it for almost 2 years and I sold it and I made about $800 in profit. So in that case, that was a depreciating asset, but I took good care of it. I didn't hold it that long and I made a little money on it. Now, admittedly, I have not been so fortunate with my other car transactions, but I'm really just not a car flipper. I just happened to really pick up a great value on that little Peugeot and drive it for almost 2 years and then sell it. So in general, financing on depreciating assets should be avoided. And in general, debt is bad when it's used at all for depreciating assets because you're still paying the money for that asset as it declines in value, and declining asset values hurt your net worth. It goes down. Okay, the next bad thing about debt is that it feels good to be debt-free. And a large factor of wealth is feeling good. What is wealth if you don't feel good about your financial situation? So a lot of people simply feel bad about debt. As a financial coach, I've worked with some people that it was to their detriment. They couldn't buy a house because they felt so bad about debt due to childhood messages in their home. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sometimes debt is good, as I've mentioned, but also, though, it does feel good to not own money on something, and of course, especially depreciating assets. Okay, the third bad thing about debt is that in general you can accumulate more wealth without having to pay interest for the things you buy. Period. End of story. Things cost less. If you buy a piece of real estate for $100,000 and you don't finance it, your cost was $100,000. If you finance it, your cost might be $200,000 at the end of the day over a long period of time. So that is the danger of only looking at cash flow and not thinking about the long-term effect of debt, the long-term cost to you. End of story, period. You pay more when you finance assets, especially over a long time. The next bad thing about debt is you have to earn more money to pay off your debt. And this can create financial strain. I know that sounds so duh, like everybody knows that, and everybody sort of does know that. But here's the next really important part of that equation that I really didn't realize until a few years ago. I didn't really think about this. Earning more money, and you've got to earn more money to pay off that debt. And when I say debt, I'm talking about a mortgage or debt on an appreciating asset. So you've got to earn more money to pay off that debt, but guess what that means? Higher taxes and a higher marginal tax rate almost all the time. So in general, you're usually having to pay more taxes because you have more debt. Now, there's another side to that, because we know that there are tax benefits to incurring debt, but there's also the fact that you've got to earn more and you can get kicked up in that higher tax rate, and that may not offset the benefits that you get, if you get any, from incurring debt, paying interest. Now, I want to mention one thing super, super important. I'm an American, so I am presenting this content as with that perspective. But many countries outside the United States do not have fixed interest rates locked in. Like, they might take out a loan or a mortgage, and the interest rate changes based on the prevailing rate at any given time or over a certain time frame. In that case, almost all debt, in my opinion, is bad. It's dangerous, because you don't know what you're getting into when you get in that situation. So that really changes things, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to debt and whether or not it's smart to finance things. Remember, retire certain.